Spring 2025. New project, new site, old fence. So we've got this beautiful historic looking property with an old school formal garden. At least that's what they were going for about 10 years ago when they built this place. Now it's falling apart. And so the fence falls apart. The roses are destroying the fence as much as they are actually keeping it together. So, what to do? We considered a lot of different options, even including a chicken coop inside the fence, which would require some extensive patching. But first, we had to remove the patches of roses and the other climbers that were all around the fence. It took almost 2 days to clear everything, bring it to the woods, and then dig up the plants that we were going to salvage for later. Once the site was cleaned up, we had a lot to work with. So the soil was rich, and I was able to preserve some of the trees and work them into the design, which I love because it gives the garden more maturity, both in aesthetics and practicality. And that tree had a ton of flowers, which the butterflies absolutely loved. And here you can see how the soil is actually quite rich. There was almost 8 inches of mulch, pretty evenly throughout. So I wanted to divaricate the pathways and create a different setting. We're going to have some mulch and some pea gravel. And this liner for the pathways is a great way to do that. Looking back, I might have done this with stone, but given the nature of the project, this was an excellent use case for this bender board. This is good stuff that you can use in a variety of projects, and I made sure to collect all the plastic from the cuttings and dispose of it properly so it didn't mix with the soil. So we had a pretty straightforward conversation. The layout was decided quickly. I didn't even need to do any major alternatives. So once we had the initial forms set up, it was time to dump the materials. We dumped a lot of pea gravel and quite a bit of mulch and soil as well. Then it was time to begin the irrigation. So we used 4-inch PVC piping to this existing water output, and this housed the hose line, the drip irrigation line, of which there were two, one for the garden beds, one for the trees, and then a fourth line that is going to be used for this. And what is this, you might be wondering? Well, we're actually putting in a pond. And this tube is going to house the hose for the autofill valve. That's going to make sure that the water is always present in the pond so it doesn't dry out and exhaust the pump. So we've got the setup lined and filled, and we've got a bunch of plants in the ground, including these bananas and a bunch of flowering plants. I actually bought the bananas from this local nursery because I do try to shop local and support local when possible. So the rest of the plants did come from a variety of vendors. It was time to open them up and plant them according to the design. Part of that design included the drip irrigation system. This just has 2 outputs, which is adequate for this project. You can see many of the pollinators loving the butterfly bush tree that we kept, and it really benefited the whole project. And that's why you want to add a water source for pollinators so they'll have food, drink, and a reason to stay. So ultimately, the goal was to have another water source that the pollinators could find a respite in. These rocks were dug up at the spot where the pond is, and I supplemented that with some rocks from a local rock yard. This is driver jack rock, and it turned out beautifully. You drive up to the scale, they measure you before you pick up rocks and then afterwards. In this case, I had about 1,000 pounds of rocks with me, and it wasn't enough. I had to go back to get about another 800. But in the years I've been making cairns, this was one of the most challenging ones because it exceeded the 18-inch limit of the SDS bit. So I had to get a little creative, both with drilling and then also setting up the pond. So this is a heavy-duty pond liner, and you hopefully don't have any leaks with this. That's the idea. So you have to be very careful when placing the rocks and fitting everything to form. So I test fit the cairn in the location using a rigged system of galvanized steel piping, and then I surrounded it with these driver jack stones. Once those were all in place, it was time to apply a black pond foam expanding sealant. This makes excellent work of locking everything in place, and while it's wet, you can actually fill it with smaller stones to mask it and make it look more natural so you don't see any of those black blurbs. Now, then we completed the area with the pea gravel, and eventually we actually took out those slots that surround the stones just to create a cleaner look and transition. But that's the cairn in place with the autofill. So let's just pause and look at the garden at its current state. So everything is just about in place. We've got raised beds, we've got the existing structures, and that blank space that we just passed on the left is actually going to be used for something else in the near future, because sometimes in projects things are dynamic and change. So that was where we were going to put the chicken coop, but we decided to move it outside because the homeowner ended up wanting more chickens. Alright, we've got the cairn set up, we've got the pebbles covering all of the pond foam, the protector to cover everything. We do have some extra rocks here. We do also have an auto fill valve. This is more of an emergency in case the water ever gets too low and we'd need water at the bottom. Alright, the pond is filling up nicely. It's going to be getting purified with these plants. So we've got an oxygenator here. This is hornwort. We've got pickerel. We've got different kinds of lilies. We've got duckweed. And we have a couple other plants to just kind of add some more decoration. We're going to get these in and see how they look. Yes, that tube is for the pump. It will be going in soon. I'm actively building a solar system for it. In it goes. In it goes. And let's put some more there. This stuff will go towards the bottom and help purify it below and taking nutrients so that algae doesn't form. The centrifugal force of the water being propelled at an angle is actually hopefully going to help spread this. So we have some plants that are going to do well in this deeper area. It's about 2 feet deep here from top to the bottom. Now, you might be wondering, is this a little shallow? What's going to happen when there's a ton of rain? It's going to permeate this pea gravel. There is no barrier underneath. Any overflow will go into the surrounding mulched areas, which have incredibly rich soil, so the water will saturate it quickly, and overflow will go towards these berry bushes, which can handle quite a bit of water in any event. Now we've got the pickerel. Pretty cool weed, almost looks like lemongrass if you ask me, or green onions. We're not treating this pond as a food source for humans, although dragonflies and such may find some kind of food here. We're certainly hoping that they find sanctuary here. Listen to that thunder. Now that's a classic Virginia storm. Oh wow,
check out the frog. Somebody's hanging out. He will hopefully protect this from bugs. We even already have a cricket right there. In this pollinator garden, you know, we have such a mix of plants already, and we've seen so many pollinators come through. Let's talk about what we did. So we put the duckweed in, we allowed it to spread. We have the hornwort inside. Hope you can hear that thunder. It's pretty awesome. It's gonna be a good storm. We've got the pickerel on the side. That will need adjustment. I'm going to actually use zip ties temporarily to tie them to rocks, give them a tether so that they're not gonna float on the side like this. And the other plants, we're gonna have a little bit of a battle royale, so to speak. I'm a big believer in letting the strongest plants win. I always find that to be the most advantageous and a long-term solution. We'll be getting the filter and the pump in as soon as possible. Got some nutrients here. We're gonna add one of these to try and give this a head start. So boom, just like that. Simple as, and that's gonna be releasing quite a bit of nutrients. And the idea with all these plants is that they're going to take those nutrients and essentially deprive algae of being able to use it to grow.
So this wire runs from the pump to the battery box. We've got 2 batteries with a solar charge controller wired in parallel, which means it has double the capacity, and that powers the fountain, which allows the water to cascade and create these little pockets of wet rock that pollinators love so much. That's one of the ideas of this. Give the animals room to sit or hang out. And you can see the plants love the space. So that's just about everything for this space inside the garden. Please enjoy these glamour shots. I'll be posting an update in the coming months with the second year, as well as the chicken coop and how that infrastructure all works. But let me know your thoughts. There's a lot I didn't cover. If you'd like to know more, please check out my Instagram or website. If you'd like to discuss this project or one of your own, please reach out. Best way to get to me is via Instagram or the phone.